When NIMBY hits the fan, chaos is running rampant in these local municipalities where elected officials are scrambling for cover, allies are second guessing their support for the project, and the opposition is gaining momentum with negative press coverage, public anxieties, and angry Facebook posts, all coming together at a public hearing where it's turned into a Jerry Springer episode. And so now you go from bad to worse. So what's a developer to do? Well, first off, you have to understand that this is part and parcel of the application process. And we can look to Stoicism as a way, a philosophy and an attitude that's going to help overcome these given community opposition and forces. So let's go into the war room and let's get philosophical.
Initialize program.
So here in the war room, we're going to get philosophical because it comes down to where do you have control over the fate of your project? And in my experience for the last 30 plus years, I have found that being stoic is one of the greatest weapons you can have when you're in the public square, the NIMBY's hitting the fan, and chaos is just creating a lot of political and public anxieties. And so we want to turn to, what I turn to, and what's very popular is the Emperor Marcus Aurelius. Marcus Aurelius understood that he had to have an approach to his day-to-day life as an emperor and as a person, right? And so one of his key philosophies that are echoed to this day, including myself as I underwrite strategies and tactics, the impediment to action becomes action. What stands in the way becomes the way. So in other words, obstacles in your application, the obstacles of opposition, the obstacles of having a vote count that is not in your favor, the obstacles of financing and negative media. These are seen through the lens of Stoicism as this is just part of the fate and destiny of your project. In other words, it's no longer a surprise. It's part of your development as a developer and an executive on how you're going to overcome these obstacles. And that's a key mindset from a Stoic standpoint. We also go to Epictetus, who was very much an influence on Marcus Aurelius. Epictetus understood that I can't control what's happening around me, but I can control how I respond to it. And that's a key here, because there's a dichotomy here of chaos versus control. And Stoicism is very focused on what you could control in this chaotic, unpredictable, uncertain environment. And so when you're able to harness Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus, these Stoic fathers, then you're able to go into the public square understanding that NIMBY happens. It's going to happen. It's happening more often than ever before thanks to the internet and the digital platforms and everything else in between. And so how do you apply this Stoicism? Well, when you're looking at your project, whatever it is, industrial to residential, infill, etc., understanding that you're going to have obstacles, anticipating, in this case, in our war room context, there's going to be opposition. And so when you have the obstacles, when you have something standing in your way, it becomes the way. Instead of something that you recoil, you anticipate it. Instead of something that you are surprised, you have accounted for. And that Stoicism is under now writing whatever your community outreach is going to look like, your stakeholder engagement. And you're going to be now more in control, as Epictetus talks about, where you're in control of the fate of your project. And one of the famous sayings of Stoicism is amore fati, the love of fate. And so we all love being in control of our own destiny, right? And so this is very applicable to your application process, where you're not beholden to this archaic notice and hearing process, which, as we've talked about in prior episodes, it's very legal, logical, and linear, chaotic, predictable, and you can be exploited by being so rigid by the opposition. So with the Stoicism, you're going in there with a peace of mind, accounting for the obstacles that are going to be coming down the pike. Not that you're going to go out of your way to try to raise opposition, but you should at least account for, through the Stoic lens, that it is going to happen in all probability. So what are you going to do in anticipation of that and understanding that the odds are you're going to face it? And so you have a choice. You have a decision to make. Are you going to take some proactive steps to engage the community earlier, put your narrative out there, your impressions before they're hijacked and demonized? Or are you just going to, roll the dice and have that deer in the headlights moment, more than likely at a public hearing, where the opposition just blindsides you and you've just lost all control over the fate of your project? And so dialing in a little more on that control side before we wrap up this War Room episode. Control is a very important thing. We all want to feel like we're in control. And opposition and their tactics, they're not only eroding the credibility, but also your sense of destiny on this project. And it really starts emanating from you and your team. And it's like a blood in the water. The sharks can sense it and smell it. The officials are going to be looking to you, not just to create that political cover that they're going to be desperately looking for, but also, where's your confidence? Because if you don't feel like you have control, that confidence is eroded. That hubris that you had going in is now in a panic mode. And this is one of the key elements of the War Room, is we don't want to make a situation worse. And so in this case here, step back, look at what do you have control over? What is being attacked? What is it? Should be ignored by the opposition because all their arguments are not founded, and also come out with your own narratives and making sure that your frame is being heard versus just reacting to the environment. And that's the key here. And then we'll wrap up. Is you're not reacting to the environment, you're dictating to the environment, and by overcoming the obstacles, which makes you stronger and tougher and wiser, you're going to then have that chessboard to where you have the pieces where you need them to be. But only if you understand that you have to control your fate from the beginning and not be reactive to an environment that you didn't account for. So that's the lesson here in today's episode, that the NIMBY obstacle is the way. And oh, by the way, this is our 100th episode, so thank you for supporting our channel and being a part of it. If you're seeing this for the first time, go ahead and hit the subscribe and like and be part of this movement of understanding the NIMBY playbook and how you can turn NIMBY opposition into yes in my backyard opportunities. See you next time.